I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing and I have my own startups.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, everyone, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with startups, small businesses, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Today, we have Dr. George James, who's a licensed therapist, but also an international relationship empowerment expert and founder of George Talks LLC.
And then we have two amazing presenters, Jane Emma with the Goodfor company, helping people stay healthier with clean water, and Gogie Padilla with AnswerSure, helping protect your elderly relatives from phone scams. I'm really excited to hear about both of these because these are two very important things.
From phone scams.
I know. Well, you're not elderly, so maybe I spoke wrong. Maybe it goes to everybody.
Well, I think everybody needs help against phone scams. Before we talk with our distinguished guest, we have to go to IP in the news. And so tell us a little bit about what IP in the news is about today.
Well, if you went online and saw a site called Texas Guns N' Roses, would you associate it with the rock and roll band Guns N' Roses?
Is this a trick question?
Yes, this is a trick question because I already know the answer.
Is there like a right answer and a wrong answer to this? I don't know.
But Guns N' Roses is suing this online gun shop for trademark infringement. But what's so funny about this is that the online gun shop, they really just sell guns, but they have a couple of flower bouquets you can buy. But the funny part about it is that the florist shop is in New Jersey. So Jersey Village Florist. So
that's like such a weird combination. I mean, who would ever think up selling flowers and guns? They seem like opposite ends of the spectrum to me.
So anyway, this was an article on Gizmodo, and it was written by Nikki Main. And what was hilarious was there were comments on this article. So I just want to read a couple of them because I think they're so funny. Somebody said it sounds like some kind of weird one-stop shop for mob hitmen from the 50s. You can now pick up a snub-nosed revolver to assassinate a mob boss in a back alley and purchase a single rose to drop on top of the body.
You forgot to say, though, that the Guns N' Roses band is suing the Texas Guns N' Roses shop for trademark infringement. I'm not sure if you did.
Oh, well, so now you've said it. Thank you.
Yeah. And so anyway, some of the comments are pretty funny. The one that I liked is, well, why couldn't they have named it Texas Firearms and Flowers, right? Instead of Guns N' Roses. But obviously the band thinks they're trying to capitalize on the Guns N' Roses name, and the store owner is like, it has nothing to do with you guys. This is a firearms and flower shop. It's not a rock band, right? So
right. But I think Guns N' Roses has a claim here because I think it sounds like they started this site and they did it in Texas. So it'll be interesting. There were a lot of trademark discussions in the comments, but there was one final comment that I thought was pretty hilarious. Says Guns N' Roses claims the shop's name falsely suggests a connection with them and creates a blurred line between the band's distinction and could tarnish the Guns N' Roses mark. And this guy says this has already been done multiple times over the years by Axl Rose.
I was going to say, isn't their whole reputation based on being tarnished? I mean, give me a break. Nobody would buy their records otherwise.
So anyways, you can't just do that. I don't think Texas Guns N' Roses is going to win in court personally.
Yeah, well, stay out of Texas. They got different rules down there. We would like now to go to our guests this evening for Richard's Roundtable.
It's not evening.
We would like to go to our guests. I could have corrected you a couple of times, by the way.
Why did you?
Because I didn't think it was right.
Well, you should, because if I'm saying something wrong, I want you to correct me.
All right. Well, going forward in the show, I will take.
Yes.
I will take license to correct you. Okay. So here we go. So where was I? Oh, Richard's Roundtable. So here we are. With Dr. George James, and welcome to the show, Dr. James. Great to have you. And as a licensed therapist, I don't know if you have any comments on Elizabeth's interaction with myself, but you may have.
I was going to start there, but I didn't know if he was ready for it.
So was that a sign of a healthy marriage or not? I mean, that's what we want to know. So
Hey, you had good open debate. You were able to work it out. You didn't care if anybody was watching. So I think that's pretty decent. All right.
Okay.
There's no curse words. I mean, so I think we could go with it.
Okay.
So we syndicated months ago, and some of our shows play during the day instead of the evening. So we had to quit saying this evening for the syndication, and Richard can't do it.
I can't, but the other part of this is that all of our shows do play in the evening on only the affiliate stations.
Do they? So, but they said we can't say evening anymore.
Well, I know they told us that, but then if
You're only wrong sometimes. It's okay.
Right, we're correct twice a day. Anyway, so Dr. James, what do you think about this whole Guns N' Roses stuff? I mean, this is pretty heavy. Heavy information to be dealing with, I know, on a Sunday evening. That's when the show airs. So,
well, but they said some affiliates may not air it in the evening.
All right. Well, no, you can cut that part out. Anyway, going to Dr. James.
I love it. I think that there's a lot of ways in business we try to leverage off of something. And, you have to know that the Guns N' Roses has been out for so long. If you just add Texas to it, it's going to be connected to something. So I think, in ahead of time. And what were they trying to leverage? Was that the market? Was that the audience? Was that the people that they wanted? And if you want to say you had nothing to connect it to it, then like you said, there could have been a different way to do it. But it sounds interesting. If it gets some more traffic and more people, maybe that's what they wanted.
Yeah, I sometimes people, I don't think they defend lawsuits on purpose, but they file lawsuits on purpose for the publicity, right? So, this is maybe a reverse situation, a reverse strategy of some sort.
I just wonder if you did purchase a bouquet, if you would ever get it.
maybe Guns N' Roses needs more record sales. Who knows? Maybe they dipped a bit.
Or as one of the comments suggested, you could hide your rifle in a bouquet of roses and use that to put out your mob hit on the Jersey Floral Shop. Anyway. So, Kenya, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously, it's a clear swagger jack in terms of use of names. I mean, it's so familiar. And I feel like we've been all branded with Guns N' Roses. I want to understand, though, they're selling guns and roses out of this store, right? Is that what is my understanding?
Well, they're selling mostly guns and gun equipment, but they have 4 different floral arrangements you can choose from to buy.
Got it. So if I wanted to get a rifle and a bouquet, that's the place to go.
Right.
A gift for you and a gift for your loved one.
Right.
It's Texas. Anything goes.
Yes, exactly.
So they definitely don't have a right to use it. I agree with Dr. George James, because I just feel like it's like, duh, right?
Well, now the attorney for the store, the Texas Guns N' Roses store, says there's never been an instance of actual confusion between customers of their store and the Guns N' Roses record label. Does that change your opinion at all?
Well, it makes me have a question for you. Like when it comes to I guess terms of use or what they're using it for, is there a way for them to weasel around and kind of go that track? So Guns N' Roses probably has a trademark for music purposes, right?
Right.
Is there a way to get it trademarked under a different class of use? Does that work?
See, I can tell that you've been on the show for a while, Kenya, because you're beginning to ask legal questions. And so, but I mean, this is a lawsuit, so there's always lots of weaseling that goes on. And it may be that Texas Guns N' Roses is violating some Guns N' Roses trademark registration. Guns N' Roses probably has registration that covers merch, right? And so, I don't know if they have it that covers that exact same kind of merchandise, but so it depends on the scope of the trademark registration. So you nailed that one. So
I think what would be funny is that if you go to check out if they have like vintage CDs or albums of Guns N' Roses to
Oh,
upsell you.
Oh, that would be for sure. That would be the kiss
Yeah.
of death. I
The
think.
ultimate salt on the wound.
So, let's see. Who is our next victim? Jane, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think that it was probably initially very clever, and when they probably, came up with it, you're definitely trying to bite off of the notoriety of the rock band, 100%. But I think when you're just getting started, you're like, oh, I'm so small, nobody's going to notice me. And then I don't know how long they've been in business or, whatever it is, or how large their business is. But as you get bigger, people will start to notice. And then clearly, like, good for you, but bad for you, Guns N' Roses noticed and they didn't like it very much. So
Well,
I don't know. Sorry, it's gonna depend on the classes that they're in, right? Like the class of trademark that they're in. I just went through this a couple years ago with my business, and it was, you had to pick like specific categories and have the foresight to see, are you going to be going into those categories and all of that? So I don't know. I don't feel like we know enough about it yet.
that was
That's
I
a
think
good
that's
answer.
that's a good way to get out of the discussions. And well, we need more facts. We need
Yeah.
more facts. But no, those were very smart comments, and you brought up a lot of good points about trying to project when you're doing trademark stuff what's going to be happening in the future, and you want to cover all your bases as early as you can, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. So, Gogie, based on the facts that we have,
Yes,
Based
yes.
on what we know now.
Based on what we know, definitely, I think they were, trying to get a jump on the recognition of Guns N' Roses. I think, very honestly, if I can give them a plan to solve this, they could name it Guns and Gardenias, and they could have, Texas
Oh.
G&G. I mean, I'm always thinking the shorter the name and you can brand it, the better. But definitely, they're going to lose. Sorry, I've called it.
I'm sure Guns N' Roses has some pretty pricey attorneys too.
Oh,
so
yes.
You don't want to go up against them.
No.
sometimes musicians blow through all their money, and who knows? I don't know about this particular set of musicians.
Maybe Texas Guns N' Roses could give Guns N' Roses free Guns N' Roses for the rest of their.
Well,
anyway,
the
we're getting in
the record company definitely has lawyers. So
yeah,
believe
that's
me.
true.
Are they suing for a dollar amount, or are they suing just like a cease and desist type of thing?
I didn't say. We just read the
Right.
blog post, and I don't. They're usually they ask for both. So if you're going to sue somebody, you might as well ask them to change the name and ask them for money too at the same time.
Unless you
As
want to
well.
license it. Well, that was asking for money. If you want to license it, then they can do all the hard work and just give you royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
True.
think so. Well, thank you everyone for your comments. And it's now time to turn to Dr. George James, who we'll call Dr. James. And he is an international relationship empowerment expert and founder of George Talks. He's a media coach and a media and corporate consultant. And he's been on the Today Show 12 times with different topics.
I'm jealous.
I am too. He's been on CNBC, Nickelodeon, Good Day Philadelphia, and iHeartRadio. And he inspires, teaches, and motivates millions of people to have better relationships. So who doesn't need better relationships? So thank you very much, Dr. George.
No comment.
The phrase was, who doesn't need better relationships?
We all do.
Doctor.
Heart Law client, just so people know, full disclosure here, and we love having you as a client. So
Yes, thank you for that. So tell us, what does an international relationship empowerment expert do?
Yeah, so the past 20 plus years, my goal has been to help people have better relationships, whether that be as an individual, as a couple, in a family, or in business. And some of that is just, we just don't always know our blind spots. We don't always know how we are maybe making it worse. And sometimes I get to just help people think about that. Sometimes it's tools and resources. Sometimes it's just being a mirror and being able to reflect back to people. So there's lots of different ways.
So is your work mostly with couples then, or personal relationships, or do you also talk about business relationships or other, if there are other types of relationships with your pets, or relationships with your in-laws? I mean, what kind of relationships do you talk about?
I've had all of those. I've had people who have lost their pets, and I've done grief therapy with them as they are dealing with the loss of their pet. I've worked with a tremendous amount of couples, romantic, but I've also been doing a lot of media and corporate, where I might facilitate some conversations or help in a conflict at a organization, or help people think through how or what we're producing, how is that going to impact other people and their connections and relationships.
That's
I
great.
think this is
My
so
cat's not speaking to me anymore. What do I do?
no, but I think this is so important because even if somebody's working at a corporation and they get in a fight with their spouse or their kid, they go to work that day and they don't feel like doing anything.
Yeah.
They're all stressed out, their relationships are crummy, and they're depressed, and they're maybe 30% as productive as they would be otherwise. So even if you're not doing corporate work, for the entrepreneurs listening, if you can help them fix their personal relationships so they can be super productive, I think that's important.
You don't have personal experience with that, do you?
I am not going to reveal
He-
my relationship
He
issues.
keeps putting it out there to see what you're going to do.
I kind of probing. Yeah, I kind of need to know what's going on here. But
Okay,
This
so
will
let me
be the
just-
session.
yeah.
just say this. So I do want to say this. I was a little depressed. It is the holidays now. Today is December 14th. And we thought that our daughter was going to stay working in Hawaii over Christmas, and we weren't going to see her at Christmas or the holidays for the first time in our lives, in her life, since we had her. And I was depressed. I mean, I wasn't as productive and really bummed out. And then Friday at 4:30 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang, opened the door, and there's our daughter.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
this is
That's beautiful.
just the best Christmas present I could ever have.
Yeah, I think we were both. I was so delighted. Elizabeth even bought a Christmas ornament. Her name, our daughter's name is Lindsay, and we sometimes joke that she's like
Cindy Lou Who.
Cindy Lou Who and the Grinch,
Grinch, but
right?
we call
Because
her
she
Lindsay
was
Lou Who.
that small. She had blonde hair and everything. So she got me a Cindy Lou Who ornament because Lindsay wasn't going to be here with us
Right.
for Christmas. And so,
But my mood and my productivity have shot up. I got to tell you.
yeah, same here.
Since
There is a lot there, and it actually goes both ways. And this is a lot of the work that I do. That yes, if you have struggles with your interpersonal relationships, family, romantic, it does affect your productivity at work. And then if you have conflict at work or challenges with your boss or colleague or direct report, it then also can create issues at home. So there's all these ways that if we're not managing our relationships, it does impact our well-being, our productivity, just how we show up. So like your daughter can show up, and now that brings joy and excitement, and now maybe even more creativity. But the thought of her not being there is like, do I really want to go in today? Do I really want to be productive today? So it can go both ways.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And our son too, we weren't really sure whether he was going to be able to make it or not because of some, personal circumstances he was going through, but he was able to come, and we had an early Christmas celebration
With both our kids
with
at home.
both our
Nice.
kids at home, and it really made such a huge difference. So if your kids, if you're listening and you have parents and that are pining for you, try to make it so that you can join them, because I think good family celebrations are so important. So tell me, when you're the founder of George Talks LLC, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so in 2008, I had an opportunity to do some wellness courses, workshops for a university, and that was like, I probably should start a business structure to enable me to do this. And over the years, it has allowed me to speak, to consult, to coach, to do lots of things around the very thing that we're talking about: how to help people have better lives, better connections. And that has been a lot, has been romantic relationships, has been family, but I've done a lot of business and corporate stuff. And in the past 3 years, I've been doing a lot more media, where working with media corporations and companies around their messaging or how they integrate mental health. So the thing is bringing mental wellness into lots of different spaces. And I've been really fortunate to do that.
That's great. So we have to take a quick break for a commercial, but we'll be back with more Passage to Profit and our special guest this evening, Dr. James, and we'll be back right after this.
Well, welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Dr. George James. We've just had a really interesting discussion with him. We're going to continue it now, and I'm going to go to Kenya for a comment or question.
Yeah, so just curious, and not that this is happening by any chance, but how do you solve a conflict? So say you're having an issue with a superior or your boss or a CEO and someone who's a higher up, and you're having a conflict. What are some of the best ways to resolve those type of situations?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Kenya, and that comes up often. I think it depends on your relationship, right? So oftentimes, is there enough trust in the relationship that you can be honest with your boss or the person you report to, that you can say like, hey, this was hard or different. Sometimes there isn't enough trust or where we feel like if we say this, there could be a consequence, which that can lead to lots of other issues. So some of it is, okay, am I writing down the one? Am I being really careful about my work and my job? And then also, is there another way that I can address the particular situation? In the work that I do recognize that sometimes a conflict we're having, even with our boss or superior, gets magnified because we might be unhappy at work, or there's unhappy at home, or other issues that compound some of that. So I would say, look throughout your whole life what you might need to work on. See if you have enough trust to communicate with your boss, but then also document what you're doing so that when there is a time, you can now present the evidence of what you're doing and what you might need.
Wow, that's really great advice. How do you build a trustful relationship with your boss? I mean, there's hopefully your boss sees you as a colleague and a contributor, but some bosses have, sort of a top-down view and they have their own style of management. How do you go about building that trustful relationship? Maybe with somebody who has that top-down view, right?
Yeah, I think some of it is really understanding people and understanding yourself. So a big thing of what I do is being able to be self-aware and to understand how you show up. So for me, I love building relationships. I love connecting with people. I'm like, kiss the babies, hug, shake hands. That's me. Some other folks in the business world might be more data oriented. And I've even recently have had to learn, how do I adjust to meet someone like that? So like I mentioned, I might need to be more precise with my data to connect with that person. And then from there, we can have more conversations, maybe go out, maybe it's a happy hour. If it was the reverse, if it was me, maybe somebody would need to know about me and my family. That's the way in. And then from there, we can have a bigger conversation, and that builds trust. So it's knowing yourself and studying and finding the way in, and then build from there.
I think that's great advice. And if you're a boss, because if entrepreneurs are listening to this, maybe they have a few hires, what is the best way for a boss to treat their employees to build that trust?
I'm a big advocate for being able to model the behavior, right? I think too many bosses, too many people in higher positions don't practice some level of openness and vulnerability. Sometimes we don't even let the folks that report to us know why we're doing this particular initiative, why we are changing our practices, or why we're evolving in a certain way. Give people a blueprint. Open up. Maybe say what's happening. Maybe say that your pet is sick and is on antidepressant meds, and that's really making it difficult for you right now. Being able to be a little bit transparent, or even a more transparent, I think makes a big difference for the folks that you work with.
I think that's great advice. And the boss really shows leadership too. So I guess if they do that, they make it a safe space for the employees to open up, right?
Big time. And I think the model has always, oh, that's too soft, or that's bringing home into the workplace. But employees, colleagues, coworkers, they're actually looking to that. They're looking to see, in my view, how you show leadership and show strength in these multifaceted ways. And it comes with be more open, be more vulnerable, sharing a little bit more about either yourself or the vision or both. And then that increases buy-in, that increases brand loyalty, that increases, and we've seen people leave jobs because they felt like they don't have a space there, or they don't know the vision, or they don't connect to their boss or superior. That's part of the ways to keep people on and keep people productive.
Yeah, there's an old saying that you don't quit a company, you quit a boss, right? And there's probably a fair amount of truth in that. If the boss can't connect, or if there's just not that connection there. The challenge is that there's a practical aspect of this. Like, if you may not be able to control who's your boss, right? But then going out and getting another job and going through that process is a stressor in and of itself. And you may land at some place that's better, or you may land at some place that's worse, right? So if you're in that situation where you don't quite feel ready to go, but by the same token, you're not happy where you're at. I mean, how do you, and let's just put it down to the relationship with your boss. It could be other reasons too, other people in the workplace driving you crazy, but how do you,
That happens.
how do you,
a lot.
how would you counsel somebody on that? So.
Yeah, once again, I'm really a huge advocate for awareness. And in those situations where you feel stuck, it might mean, why do I feel stuck? Do I feel like I'm not making enough money? Do I feel like I'm not productive? Do I feel like I'm not reaching my potential? Like, there might be reasons that I am reflecting on. Am I comparing myself to other people? And so some of that might be, what can I do now for myself? Well, maybe I need to take a course or certificate. Maybe I need to improve my, maybe I need to ask, can I jump on another project or assist in another project? Maybe I need to volunteer someplace else, because some of this is, if 100% of your satisfaction comes from your job, you will be miserable at some point. So being able to have other places where you can have and happiness and purpose can be helpful. And then maybe having a strategic plan. Either I'm going to move up in the company or have more responsibilities, or I have developed a way out that will be fulfilling for me.
Wow,
Right. That's really good.
So
I
go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted to ask quickly. You have this pillow behind you that looks like you wrote something, and it says "Give myself," and then there's an open space, and in red marker it says "Permission."
Yes.
Right. So what does that mean?
So it's a featured talks that I give. It's the name is called "I Give Myself Permission," and it's a lot of what we're talking about today. Is that sometimes people don't give themselves permission. That we get stuck for whatever reason. We say we have to do things, and the story I share is that I saw my mother, who came from Jamaica, hardworking woman, and my father, both hardworking, and but my mom would work at the hospital, come home, a night shift, come home, we'd go to church, she'd maybe take a quick nap and go right back to work. I saw hard work on one side, but I didn't see her take care of herself, do self-care, practice even exercise in a certain way. She didn't give herself permission to do that. And so many people work hard, do a lot, but don't give themselves permission for something that they need. So I try to practice it, and I try to encourage other people to give yourself permission to have the conversation with your boss. Maybe it is to maybe find another option for yourself, but to give yourself permission to say it's okay and work towards that.
Yeah. So Kenya, you were going to go to Kenya, right?
I was just going to ask Kenya to see if she had another question. So,
How do you know when it's time to quit? And like, is there an art to quitting?
Yeah, as throughout the past 3 years of the pandemic, racial injustice, inflation, all these things have been reasons for people to think about it. We've heard of quiet quitting, where people have been saying, I don't want to leave. I want to leave, but I'm not leaving, right? So all that has been there. I think these are things that have allowed people once again to reflect and say, what is important to me? I've been in a place of saying my family is important to me. So I'm rearranging my work and life around my family. Other people might say, well, I want to make the most money. The thing that is most important to you is not happening. That might be you on the road to quitting. if the job, if the environment, if the money, if the purpose is not lining up with what is important to you, that might say it's time to quit. Now, I'm huge advocate of don't quit without a plan. Like there's a lot of people who will, right? There's a lot of people like, I'm just done. But I think that if you quit without a plan, that leaves you stuck and hurt and depressed. Versus even if it's to start a business, even if it is to, start doing something else or go to another job, have somewhat of an idea and a strategic plan, but know what is important to you, because I think that leads you to the place of saying, I want to quit. Lastly, some people don't pay attention to that, and all this stuff just comes up for them, overwhelmed, and they make a rash decision and they react, and that's where you see people quit on the spot without the plan.
Right. And that could, I think that could potentially lead to regrets, because after things cool off, you're saying, well, there's a lot going on here, right? And so so that could be financially stressful, or you get home and your better half says, you quit your job?
Right.
How are we going to pay the
We don't have
mortgage?
insurance. We don't have all this other stuff. Like what?
Right.
What?
Right.
Which it can also cause stress in the relationship. Right?
Then you will be coming to see me, and that's another expense.
So you really have to look at things with a cool head, is what I hear you saying, and as much as you can, and try to take a rational approach and plan things out if you want to make a change. And I think that's really super good advice. I really don't think it's a good idea for people to just quit their job. Although our daughter quit her job, come home for the holidays, but she has a 2-year plan, and she saved enough money to live in Hawaii until her lease runs out. And then, her part of her 2-year plan is relying on her parents whenever she needs to.
Hey, that's the plan, right? My parents,
Which
I'll
we were
just sit
just
on.
informed of, by the way. But yeah, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we know we can always I know I can always rely on you guys. And
But see, when you're early 20s, that's a good plan. That's a decent plan. When
Yeah.
you're 40 something, that's not a good plan.
No.
Right?
No.
Like you have to know where you are in your life to say if you can come back home, or who you can rely on, or who's going to pick up the slack. There's different moments.
Yeah.
Right. She's not married, no kids. She won't even get a cat because their life is so uncertain, right?
And the reason why she stopped working there was as she was a nurse, and she was spending all of her time working and not spending any time enjoying her environment. So she made a lot of money and saved it, and it's like, okay, now I'm going to take 6 months and really enjoy Hawaii and go around and do things and enjoy myself, which is the reason she went there in the first place, right? So
Yeah.
I admire her for making that decision. I personally, I don't know if at her age I would have had the courage to just kind of do that, but
It's a different generation.
Yeah,
All
it's
the way.
different
And I
now.
think we've seen that a lot more with, I would say, younger. I'm a Xer, and millennials all the way down have been practicing. I give myself permission in a way that we just haven't seen. They say, like, you know what? Why am I here and not seeing Hawaii? I mean, of all places, right? And let me just enjoy it. And to give yourself that permission to have that courage is remarkable.
yeah. And in contrast, my parents both, my dad was born in 1920, and they were part of the World War II generation. And to them, to have fun was like, they would never even consider that. They would save every penny.
Yeah.
And work was like, they were like in constant survival mode.
Right.
They were, and all of their friends were the same.
They were traumatized
They were
by
traumatized
growing up poor.
Yeah.
But to our daughter's credit, I think she has a character trait that has really helped her out with this, in that she's very frugal. And so she has a lot of money saved, and she's calculated it out, and she's going to be able to live on it. Now, she took a financial literacy course in 5th grade, and that really went deep into her brain and stuck.
Right. And so one of the things that I have recently heard from a Gen Zer, and he's an entrepreneur. He started an app to help Gen Zers manage their money, because he felt like they did not have enough financial education to properly manage their money. I have no idea whether that's true as a whole or not about Gen Zers, but that's what he thought. He saw his generation not being able to manage their finances. And I think part of relationships is the business end, making sure that you're not having extra stress caused by money problems, right? If you can avoid it. And I think we all go through it at some point. I certainly have, but it's if you're not sure if you're going to make your car payment or your house payment, that stress comes out in a lot of other ways,
I think
right?
part of the relationship thing too is when someone wants to follow their passion. So, what do you say, Dr. James, to a couple where someone wants to just quit what they're doing and do something completely different, follow their passion?
Yeah, that comes up quite often, right? And I think a lot of what for Sharon, even with talking to Sharon about your daughter, is like, what does it mean? Yes, to be fiscally responsible, financial literacy, but also thinking about what it means to be an entrepreneur, right? To take this chance, right? This emotional risk. And sometimes in couples, there is maybe somebody who has a plan, has a vision, an idea. And I think sometimes people feel like if your partner doesn't agree with you right away, then that means something is wrong. Your partner didn't have the idea. You've been thinking about this. You've been building this for a while. You have to take some time to come around and understand and maybe see it the way you do. And then also what I think a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes mess up with is that they don't often give their partner the evidence of how this can work. Just because you have an idea and you think it's brilliant and you share it with your partner doesn't mean one, they'll get it, and two, that it's just magnificent. You got to walk them through it. You almost got to pitch them just like you would pitch someone else on for resources and to get income or capital for that business. So I think that being able to share that, and then like we said before, plan. I think that if you're like, I'm going to quit the job tomorrow and go, not really like that. But if you're like, here, this is what we can do, this is what I think is our plan, how we can, I think you're more likely to get them on board and eventually say, hey, babe, whichever direction, we got to go after this.
Right. And I think that's wonderful advice, and I really haven't heard that before. And I think that is really important, and also finding ways to help them see how it can benefit them personally and benefit the relationship, right? Because if you just say, pop the idea, the other person's like, well, if it doesn't work, what's going to happen?
Right.
What's going to happen to our college fund? What's going to happen to this, that, and the other thing? And so I think it, definitely has to be a process. And I really love all of the steps that you laid out there, because I don't think that lots of times those things are really thought through and talked through.
Yeah, I know a lot of entrepreneurs now are doing like lean business model, whatever. But I went through for Blue Streak, my one company, and did a 40-page business plan.
Mm.
And part of it was I copied stuff in from the internet and stuff, but it really coalesced my mind about how this could work and what could happen. And then I could really talk about it. And so I do think if you're going to make a big change in your life, you almost need a business plan for any kind of change, right?
I think that makes a lot of sense. And even if it's like a one pager, even if it's like, here's like the overview of it, a plan that one helps it to be clear for yourself and then your stakeholders. And I think the initial stakeholders are the people that love and care for you, your family, your children, your parents. Those people get on board, and then anyone else that you might need to. For business, my wife is very what I do and how I do it. She I call her my operations officer, my COO, right? Like that without her input, without us brainstorming and thinking about things, without her buy-in, we miss something. And so she's my first stakeholder, and then everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And that's the way Elizabeth and I feel about our respective businesses. And so
The
I think,
brainstorming piece is super important.
so
Right.
absolutely. So we have to take another break, but Dr. George James has just been a wealth of information, really interesting discussion, and I believe will be helpful for a lot of people. But we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest, George James, who's a international relationship empowerment expert. And I certainly feel empowered, and I think he's empowering. And I'm really aligned with his goals with helping to empower others. I think that's
I think
one
he-
thing that we can, if we can all
Yeah.
do that, then
Mhm.
I think we'll be in a good space.
I think he brought up some really good points, and he's a very interesting speaker to listen to. So if you missed it, go to our podcast tomorrow. Really, he's really got it down.
He absolutely does. And you can find our podcast anywhere you find podcasts. It's the Passage to Profit Show podcast. So now it's time for Kenya Gipson and her power move. So who is moving powerfully today, Kenya?
So we're going to give power move to the comedian Drewski. He was actually on the Breakfast Club a couple weeks ago. So he's a creator. He is a comedian that actually started off on Instagram, believe it or not. That's where he started his career, and he was able to transition his way into doing stand up. But he's also recently become a stakeholder and an owner of a football league called called Fan Controlled Football League. And he also has his own label, Could Have Been Records. And he's also a partner of Happy Dad Seltzer. So he's been doing all these creative things and now has branched off into 3 different business opportunities. So he is our power mover today.
That
Great.
sounds great. Happy Dad Seltzer. I just am wondering what that is all about. Does it does it have alcohol content?
It does. It's I think it's a hard seltzer.
So it's an adult beverage. Okay.
Yes.
And so that's great.
And who needs a more than that? So.
Well, a happy dad is a happy, good thing to have. Anyway, Elizabeth, time for
Yes.
you to talk about your many projects.
Yeah. So, well, as you know, I have Fireside renamed Blue Streak, which is a video directory of small businesses online. And right now I'm working on the website, and I had my son take a look at the website proposal. At first, he thought maybe I was going to pay too much. And then he looked at the proposal. He was like, wow, this is really good. So that made me feel good. So my son's in tech. And so I'm going to move forward with that soon. And this is a different type of directory than anything that's existed, because all of the directories now are location based. And this is a directory just of remote people that can work remotely. So it's business focused rather than location focused. So it's changing the whole way directories are done to live with our new reality, because even though we can do stuff in person now, we're not. We're still doing it on Zoom. We're doing some things in person. So I think remote is going to be here to stay. And then I have the podcast, which is the Jersey Podcats, where my partner Danielle Woolley and I will invite people on to talk about issues they're having with their cats, and we're really using it to build a community of people who have cats and love cats, or who are owned by cats, I should say, because
That's pretty much how it works in our house. They
Yes.
own us.
So we're building a community with this podcast. We're inviting people to come on. We're inviting people to send in questions, send in solutions to problems that people have who come on the podcast. And I'm really excited about it. We haven't dropped our first episode yet. We're going to do that right after Christmas. That's the plan, if we can get all our cats in a row. So, so on to our first.
Wait a minute, though, but
present-
before we go on, you said something when you were talking about Blue Streak, and that is you were talking about remote people. And, you know, having this conversation with Dr. James, the term remote people just doesn't seem correct to me, because you don't want to be remote to people. So I'm wondering if there's like a different word we can come up with to describe the Zoom phenomena, rather than calling people remote people. I'm not like,
No, there is a marketing genius on this call right now. I always defer to Kenya Gipson on creative things. So Kenya, any thoughts?
I don't know if I can up with anything that quickly. But are we just trying to rename like remote workers is like with a clever title?
Yes.
well, yeah,
guess.
kind of. I mean, maybe we should just plant the seed and come back to it later or in another episode or something. But it just said, when you say remote people, it's like you're pushing them away, and they're already not in your presence, right? So maybe we can come up with some better terminology that respects the relationship, as opposed to saying remote.
What about you know, I get what you're saying. What about virtual? I feel like virtual feels.
Virtual feels better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about virtual
But
because we're going into the metaverse with avatars and everything, and people may think it refers to that.
like non-real people, right? I don't know. I don't want to hold up the
Kenya,
show.
that's your assignment.
Okay. Well, there are technically there's virtual tellers at the banks now, so the banks are starting to evolve in that space.
Oh
So
my gosh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No. Well, it's all right. Well, let's
we'll think
on
about
with
it.
the show.
Think about it. We'll keep going. So our next presenter is Jane Emma with the Goodfor company. And I'm really excited to hear about this. It's helping you clean up your water so it's safe to drink. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Mhm. Tell us about your company.
So the Goodfor company is a water filtration company. So we specialize in every possible application from city water to well water, and we can either filter the water in a single shower or we can filter all the water in your home.
And how do you do that?
Well, how do we do that? So we have these very sophisticated, amazing water filtration systems. We partnered with a company called Puronics. They've been in the industry for over 75 years. So, you know, a big thing, a lot of people in this industry, they'll kind of go for the cheapest possible, way to get the product out there, like mom and pop style. But the focus was, products and services that are good for you, good for your home, and good for the environment. And so it was important to be able to choose a company to partner with that had the right certifications, that was dependable, where I could be walking down the street and run into a client and not, want to turn the other way and run away. So I'm proud to say that our products are, they're powerful, they're certified, and we have a whole ton of very happy customers.
So I have a question for you. So I have a background as a chemist. So different parts of the country have different chemical compositions in the groundwater that we use.
Mhm.
And, in New Jersey here, we looked at EPA Superfund sites before we moved here. And basically the whole state was a Superfund
Yeah,
site.
New Jersey is a giant Superfund
But
site.
even if you go someplace like Iowa, say, where there weren't a bunch of chemical companies, there still are a lot of chemicals because of the runoff from the pesticides used in farming, right? So
Correct.
do you do an analysis of the region and see which chemicals need to be removed the most, or do you just try to get everything?
We try to get everything. So part of the glory of these systems is that they're pretty all encompassing. And it really matters when you're trying to decide on a company or a system to go with. What media, which is the inside layers that are meant to deal with different aspects of your water, right? So, carbon that is removing, chlorine, byproducts, herbicides, pesticides, all of that kind of stuff. And then, right down to dealing with the hardness in your water. So the quality of the media inside, these systems really are kind of like you said, an all-encompassing solution. But we have partnered with a company called Simple Lab. They're incredible, and they run really sophisticated water tests that really help us drill down into each person's particular situation, right? Because not everybody's water is the same. Older homes might have older pipes and all of this kind of stuff. So it just depends. But these are really effective at really, solving the problem as a whole.
So I have a question. So I've always wondered why different water tastes different. So, I mean, I know that's probably what you're saying has a lot to do with that, but
New York tap water is supposed to be the best, right?
is that, well, that's what they say in New York. I don't know.
Yeah, New York actually had they had an issue, oh my gosh, I think it was an arsenic issue over the summer, if I'm not mistaken. And then I believe either the mayor or the governor went so far as to try to disprove that, New York tap water wasn't a problem, that he did a whole commercial. But in the commercial, the part where he was filling up the cup and then drinking it, that part was cut. So I really highly doubt that man was actually drinking the water, because I think he knows better.
His own water. Holy cow.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so did they address the arsenic issue or did they just let it go?
It's not really something it's not like you flip a switch and oh, today we're addressing the arsenic that's in the water, right? So the utilities, they're doing the very best that they can, but it really boils down to federal regulations and guidelines and what is deemed safe and what isn't deemed safe. And a lot of the times, with each contaminant, first of all, not every water contaminant is even listed as something that's monitored, and it doesn't have a max contamination level. And for those that are, these limits are established, like they're created because of budgetary, not health guidelines. So how many utilities in the region can we afford to help solve XYZ problems? So in California, it's chromium is a big problem. Chromium is a big problem in Texas as well. It's a chemical that's used to clean cooling towers, like it has industrial applications, but how do you solve that problem, right? It's not very straightforward. So the way that I have people really look at it is this: the water utility does the very best that they can to get your water to a really good place, in terms of what it was prior. But then the water utility cannot control what happens to your water between the time when it leaves its utility and gets to your house. And just like you were mentioning, the groundwater, we're dealing with herbicides, pesticide, chemical runoff. We have companies that are illegally dumping and spilling into waterways, and that water is traveling hundreds of thousands of miles. It's just a lot to be able to handle. So I have people that, oh, the government should do something about it. I mean, if we're going to be waiting for that, we're going to be waiting for a long time.
Well, wait, you're totally freaking me out right now.
I'm
I
sorry.
am never going to drag another cup of water again. But Kenya, maybe you have have a question.
Well, it reminds me of that movie Waterworld. Remember that movie with Kevin Costner, where there was like water was like sparse. And so I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on a situation like that, though, because it seems that water is becoming more and more of a commodity, and it's harder to find clean water to drink. Like, what is the future of water looking like? Because it seems a little scary.
It's probably wet.
Yeah. Well, it's a loaded question. I think that to be honest, it's really hard to answer. Only 2% of the world's water is really like natural spring water and so then it makes you think all these bottled water companies that are telling you that it's all spring water. Oh, really? So you guys just have like a direct tap into the French Alps or what have you, So, the future of water to me is probably a little bit sad. I don't want it to be a negative thing, but I think that, we're lagging so far behind in legislation that's protecting our waterways, like so far behind. And the majority of chemicals that are in our waterways have only been in circulation the last 25, 30 years or so. And so legislation is far behind. There's a lot of bureaucracy in getting anything passed. Everything is some sort of, liberal, Republican, everybody's too busy fighting. So it really just depends. It's really us that have to kind of take charge. And it becomes a health and wellness thing. You don't wait for companies to decide not to use red dye 40 in their foods, for example. That's a choice that you as a person, you have to make and say, hey, I'm no longer going to purchase foods and candy or whatever for my children that have these dyes. So the same thing is this: hey, bottled water isn't necessarily that much better than tap. Yes, it is better, but it's not the best solution because you're dealing with microplastics, and then you're dealing with really bottled tap water that has been, minimally processed, and then you're contributing to the plastics issue. It's a very loaded, very loaded topic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Dr. James, do you have any thoughts?
It makes me just think about, I think the heart of what I was hearing is like, how do you about what is well-being for you, your family, community, and the world? And I think too many of us stop at what's best for me, and we make decisions based off of that. Sometimes we don't even make best decisions what's best for our family. And it takes a lot to really zoom out to say, what choices am I making around water, around consumption, around recycling that can maybe be better for all of us? And it's a process, and not everyone has gone through it. But I think it's great to have folks like you who are sharing this that helps educate people.
Well, it's really about bringing these issues to the forefront. So we don't really hear a lot of stories about this on the news. It's not it's not really highlighted. It's not spoken about. You know, you have things like ADHD and anxiety and depression and low birth rates and miscarriages and all of these things that are growing. These statistics are getting scarier and scarier. And I'm not saying that, hey, clean up your water and clean up the rest of your life. But water, as we say, is the foundation to all of your clean water is the foundation to all other wellness efforts.
Jane,
And
I
so
have just a couple things to say there. One thing is that there has been arsenic in the water, and rice takes up more arsenic than any other plant because it grows in water.
Mhm.
And rice is the first thing that we give to our children as solid food when they're babies. And all of a sudden, since they started using these pesticides in the 80s and 90s, all of a sudden now we have all these autistic kids. And I really have felt for a long time that a lot of the childhood illnesses like that are linked to metals in the water. But
Totally.
that's just a theory. I can't prove it. The other thing is, you said you had testing. Can parents or people in general test their water and send it to your company to see what's in it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually go through our website. You can purchase these testing kits, and they're so simple, very user friendly. One of the things that I love most about Simple Labs, it gives you very clear directions. All you have to do is fill up a couple test tubes, and then you send it in, and the testing is done by a certified lab. So you're really getting easy to read results and actionable steps. And once those results come in, we can then use those results to match you with a system that is, you know, both like solution oriented and budget friendly.
Well, I have to say we have a full house filtration system at our house because
Amazing.
yeah, just like you, I mean, yeah, the city does a good job of cleaning up the water, but then it goes through a bunch of other pipes that have lead and stuff in them, and it gets to our house, and we want to have the cleanest water we can.
But it's like if I mean, now they're building houses with PVC. So I have no idea whether that's
Right.
safer to have it go through plastic or safer to have it go through, iron pipe, right? So, I mean, do you have an opinion on that? Is one better than the other, or do we even know?
I would say we're probably not, I don't want to say anything 100% sure in this aspect, right? So with PVC, at least the soft water is not going to be very aggressive on the piping. So you should be okay there, right? But it kind of, I guess we just have to wait and see, really.
Well, the lead
is what it
solder
is.
was bad in the metal pipes, right?
Yes, very much so. I mean, you have rust and everything is chipping off, and we've had clients that after having their system installed, especially out in Texas, kind of older homes, ranch style homes, they would have stuff coming out of their sinks for 2, 3, 4 days because the soft water was clearing everything out. And so when they saw literally, like, there's videos of it just like black chunks coming out, and they're like, okay, so this is what I've been showering in and not realizing this is what I'm cooking my organic fruits and veggies with, right? You're like, okay, so I'm spending all of this money.
Has this metallic flavor to the asparagus. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And this,
When I was in Colorado, I knew this girl, and she had blonde hair, and she moved to the mountains in Colorado and was drinking well water, and her hair turned orange.
copper. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, you are really ingesting some chemicals there.
Yeah, I was.
You might not have expected. But
Yeah.
I am totally on board with this whole house filtration, any kind of filtration you can get. And
I don't know what to do. I mean, if you don't have a full house filtration system, what can you do to protect yourself?
Yeah.
So we have single shower filters, for example. And also, look, if you don't live in a house, right, but you're still looking to try to, create a healthy environment for yourself, you're going to have to do something, right? If you're an apartment, condo, there's still solutions. So number one in my book, showering and all of that is very important in clean water, but the most important is what you're ingesting. So having a reverse osmosis at your kitchen sink, it gives you purified water. If you want to remineralize it, there's an option for that too. So it purifies your water and then adds in natural healthy minerals back into your water. And so, you do you drink it, you cook with it, you wash your fruits and veggies, you make soups, what have you, but at least all of the bases and everything that touches your food has been properly cleaned and purified. it's not going to be as amazing as a whole home system, but is it going to give you, good protection? Absolutely.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Is there time for another question or
No,
no? We're over time. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jane, Emma. How can people find you?
All of our tags everywhere, Instagram, website is thegoodforco.com or the Goodfor Co. And Goodfor is spelled Goodfor, the Goodfor Company.
Great. So all of you people out there, if you can afford it, I personally think that it's a good idea.
We make it affordable, I promise.
Or you can just drink things other than water, like beer.
Or the hard seltzer for dads.
The hell hard seltzer.
So time to move on. So now we have Gogie Padilla. She comes to us from Lisa Askeles, who is a good friend of ours, has been on the show many times. I love what Gogie's doing. I heard about it on one of Lisa's meetings. It's called Answer Sure, and I'm going to let Gogie describe it, but this is super important in this day and age. So Gogie, please tell us what you're doing.
Sure, thank you. Answer Sure is a phone scam prevention service. We know that phone fraud is prevalent. It's become an everyday occurrence, and our company seeks to get in front of it, help prevent people from becoming victims. And we have utility on landlines. They still exist. And we have an app for cell phones.
That's great. How does the app work?
The app works like many other apps out there. Our unique functions is that we have remote subscribing, meaning that a daughter or son could put the app on their parents' cell phones, and only the daughter or son, the purchaser of the app, would need a landline, will need a login, and a password. Neither parent would need. In our research, we found that people forgetting their logins and passwords was one of the major hindrances for people, having various apps. We also have a communication process in which the clients using the app and Answer Sure can communicate. That way we know what we're doing right, what we're not doing right, any concerns, and we can get consensus on things.
So just to understand this. So the way your system works, or one of the ways, is that somebody could buy, like a son or daughter could buy for their parents or other person, this app, install it on their phone, and then they would have the phone calls would be routed to them instead of the person with the app. What happens to the phone call when it comes in?
The phone call goes to the person with the app. The son or daughter would just be the ones that would have the utility to place the app on the phone once the parent sends the QR code. You can't just put things on people's phones. When they send that code, that's giving permission for the app to be placed on their phone. So yes.
So then what does the app do then?
It singles out, it really tries to segregate known scam, spam, and robocall numbers, phone numbers, from ringing the client's phone.
Oh, that's
and yes.
So grandma's never going to get that call saying, oh, your grandson's in prison over here in Texas, and to get him out, you have to send me $10,000 right now.
It's horrific. I would love to say no, but nothing is 100%. I mean, the known scam, robo, and spam numbers, numbers are infinite. And when you have spooling, where the original number that the call is coming from may be an international number with 12 or 13 digits, and and then you have the number in the spooling scenario coming into, let's say, a Jersey home that looks like a local number. You're dealing with two sets of numbers there that unfortunately we cannot, and I don't believe there's any app that can segregate all scam and spam. So
I think one really good thing, so I stupidly put my phone number on this site I was looking for a loan for something, and I've been getting scam calls ever since, or not scam calls, but I would call them spam. And if you answer those, which I sometimes do because I have other things, it just encourages more. So when you stop it from being answered in the first place, I think that helps a lot.
With the cell, we find that with the cell phone, yes. And we have millions of numbers in our known phone fraud directory. So it's helpful, definitely helpful.
Yeah. So, oh,
I was just going to say, I mean, I am so turned off by scammers and spammers that I just have my phone turned off like all the time.
yeah, I can't get a hold of them.
And
So-
you know, the potential spam comes up like, you know, 6 times every hour, right?
Right.
And I just wait for people to leave a voicemail message. Of course, if it's a number from somebody I recognize, I'll pick up. But
Right.
you know,
So
it's
it's a
crazy
problem
out there.
So
Yeah.
I want to go to Dr. James on this. What do you think?
You know, it's actually something that's so prevalent, as Gogie, you know, when they had stats that I think the baby boomer generation was like 10,000 moving into retirement, and that the older you get, just naturally your ability to recognize what is a scam decreases, just the way the brain works, right? And that's to all of us. And so you're more susceptible the older you get. So having support, being able to talk about this is so important, because I'm not going to be scammed. But yet, even though, you know, professors, people, multiple degrees have been scammed because they're just out there. So I think it's really important and necessary.
Well, I thank you. It's definitely, research is going on. I'm so happy you brought that up, because a lot of individuals that become victims, they have a lot of guilt, and they feel themselves, you know, that they're silly, that they fell for this. But as we get older, it is, the brain changes, and we believe more, than our critical thinking becomes less. So yes.
Is it the critical thinking, I'm sorry, that becomes less, or is it more so that you feel that the newer modern technology, that you might be missing something, that there's something that you don't understand, that if you understood those things that you wouldn't feel like you weren't, you know?
Well, I mean, it depends on the individual, I would guess. But when you're talking about the 65 and older, I believe it is their critical thinking. There's capacity that is happening there, that is lessening. And I don't want to just preface older people, we all can be victims of scams. We're all vulnerable. Okay.
You know, I want to go to Kenya now and hear her thoughts on this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I have been scammed before. I got a call one time from someone who was proclaiming they were from the IRS, and I was like so anxious, and like my anxiety was like through the roof. And then I called my husband and he's like, Kenya, the IRS doesn't call you. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But the way it made me feel was awful. Like it was so awful. And not to the point where I was about to give them money, but like it made me second guess myself. I guess my question for you though, how is this different from, like, remember those do not call registries where you would enter your phone number in there? How does that, your technology, differ from what those platforms used to be able to do?
Well, I can tell you the do not call registry, and I've used them and I've had family members use them. These phone, I call them predators, these scam predators, these calls, they go around that. So you can put your number on a do not call list and you can still receive these calls. So our service, what we try to do again with the app, is known scam numbers, fraud numbers. We segregate those so they won't ring your phone. With our landline, we have 2 plans in which we use a vetting process and passwords and numeric codes, that if the caller does not have this information, the call will not ring your landline phone.
So what are the more common sort of schemes that phone scammers use? I mean, what do they say to people to
get their money?
Well, Kenya hit it on the head. They use emotion. They use a sense of urgency. They use the love for your family. They use fear. All those tools, all those things that get people to act without thinking. It becomes almost a knee-jerk reaction. The grandparent scam, for example, I mean, you're getting a call saying your grandson is in jail in Mexico and they need $5,000 to get them out. The grandparent is saying, where can I send the money? It's the love for the grandchild and the fear that they are somewhere that they can be heard. So those are the kind of tools that these scammers use, unfortunately.
So they just make up all sorts of different kinds of stories.
Sure, they do.
What are some of most outrageous ones you've heard?
Um,
Besides the kid in jail one seems like that would pull on a lot of heartstrings.
Absolutely. I have a client that she took her pet, it was a dog, sorry, but it was a dog, to a pet hotel. She was away. And she got a call that the pet hotel had a break-in and her dog was stolen. And they needed to have money to get the dog back. And it was convoluted, but it gave her enough angst that, she was totally fearful. She didn't become a victim. But as Kenya said, the damage of phone scams is not just financial. It's also the stress that it brings on, the self-doubt that it awakens in people. And for older people, the fear that their autonomy, their universe will be lessened by family members that think they're not equipped to handle, certain things in their lives. So it's a multifaceted, multi-layered problem.
Oh, that is scary. So if I'm an older person, which is just around the corner, feels like sometimes, and I fall for a scam, then I'm worried that if my kids are mad at me or, they're going to say, okay, well, you can't handle your money. We're going to take over for you. We're going to go to court, get guardianship, whatever. I don't think my kids would do that. I hope.
Right. But if you're older, maybe you're in your, 70s or 80s and that, there's this debate going on. What should we do with mom or dad? And something like this happens, then it just makes them say, well, maybe being at home by themselves is not the best option for them. Right.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And so that is when in fact, most of us have probably fallen to one of these things, at one time or another. Certainly the emails that they send now look like they're coming from the phone company or Microsoft or whomever.
Yep.
And it's so easy for anyone to make mistakes.
Well, and we're lucky because I can get a weird email and send it to Richard and maybe some of the other attorneys and say, is this spam? Have you guys seen this before? And
I don't even open those anymore.
No, I don't
I'm
open
just like,
them.
I'm not touching
them.
it. They can call me or they can do something else if they really want to talk to me. So
this
is a wonderful service that you're providing. How can people get a hold of you or find it?
Sure. We're on www.answershore.com. And that's the best way to go on our website.
Okay. Well, thank you. This has been a really wonderful educational segment. All these services today are so important, from relationships to clean water to not getting scammed. I think that this has been just a really great show. So we have to go to another break right now, but don't go away because we have another really fun part of the show coming up. And you are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest today, Dr. George James. We'll be right back. Now it's time for Noah's Retrospective. Noah Fleischman is our producer here at Passage to Profit, and he just has a way of putting his best memories in perspective.
And a blessed silver anniversary to us one and all. 25 years, more or less, of our intimate relationship with the internet and cellular technology. Can you imagine? We've graduated from a world of erased phone messages and misplaced memos to a world of accidentally deleted emails and misread texts. Well, that's technology for you. But you know what? I'm not so sure about that. Communication is a process that's actually serviced by technology. And communication only happens when two humans or more, the communicator and the communicatee, actually conspire correctly and effectively to communicate. Now, if either party, for some reason, chooses in some way, shape, or form, maybe even subconsciously, not to, well, technology can actually service that too. It happens. It actually goes back much further than technology or anything that we're used to actually using or applying. It dates all the way back to the days of ancient Greece, when the oracle at Delphi would stand upon the podium and warn an indifferent republic about the prophecies to come. A couple of weeks later, they'd come back and just say to him, "Why didn't you say something?"
Well, we're back, and it's time for the group discussion. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, Passage to Profit, and coming up later, we have Noah's retrospective, and now is the time to go to the Passage to Profit website. It's passagetoprofitshow.com, and you can see a once-in-a-lifetime photograph of Noah Fleischman, our producer, and it's worth it. Just go to the website and look for Noah, and send him lots of hearts.
And there's also a photograph of our absolutely beautiful program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, too.
Absolutely, too. So we, like you say, we always have the best looking people on this show.
Yeah, just ignore the pictures of Richard and me. We have Kenya on there too, and she looks gorgeous, of course.
Of course.
But now we do our group discussion. I get to ask everybody the same question. I'm going to start with you, Dr. George James. If you could hire anybody to help you with your company, cost is no object, and they would actually do it because doesn't matter if they're not too busy or not, who would you hire?
I'm still trying to figure out the best person, but I feel like where I am right now, someone that is a combo between a great publicist, marketer, because I have a lot of great content. I've been doing a lot in lots of spaces, but someone that would just project me even further. So whoever that is, who is that skilled and has worked with, folks like, maybe, a Dr. Phil to a Steve Harvey, to people who have been out there like that, that would be probably the person.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, Jane Emma, who would you hire if you could hire anybody for your company?
Richard Branson. And Richard, if you're listening, I have a very competitive offer for you.
Hey, Gogie Padilla, who would you hire?
Morgan Friedman. I think Morgan Friedman, he runs the gamut age group wise, demographic. People respect him. They listen to him. He has an authority, and that would be great.
His voice is so nice. It's so smooth and calming. Totally.
Exactly.
I totally
get it.
see that.
So Kenya, for your Coach Kenya company, who would you hire?
Probably Floyd Mayweather.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's very entrepreneurial. And we've talked about him on the show before too, how he's the only athlete in the sports business who also is both the promoter and the athlete at the same time in all his ventures. So he has a good business model in place. So definitely.
That's a good one. Richard Gearhart, who would you hire to help with your business if you could hire anybody?
Well, besides you,
yes.
I would say Elon Musk. Because I wouldn't have to do anything. I would just, here Elon, and he would go to Mars or something, and I could watch sitcoms all day.
Okay, so you're not paying attention to Twitter, apparently.
I was going to say, read the Twitter files.
Yeah, you picked the most controversial entrepreneur that is being covered right now.
Elon prior before Twitter.
Yeah. So for Blue Streak, I would hire the person who was in charge of new product development at Google, because I would love to be able to sell this business to Google or one of these other sites. So I would get like the top person at Google for new products, because they're rolling out a whole bunch of new stuff this year, and get them to like really hone this thing so Google would buy it.
Well, that sounds like a strategic choice. I think,
all of these
Googlers, if you're listening, please, please call Elizabeth. You want me to give out your cell phone number?
She wants to go live in Hawaii too.
Well, it's time to wrap things up, right? So why don't we?
Oh, let me go through everybody's websites one more time. So if you're just tuning in, our podcast is out tomorrow. You really missed a great show, but if you want to hear it again, our podcast is out tomorrow, wherever you find your podcast. But the people we had on the show, Dr. George James, who is a relationship expert, not just interpersonal relationships for the home or family or pets or whatever, but he also does corporate work and works with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and you can kind of feel the power behind his understanding, and you get the sense that he really can help with relationships.
Right. And he's a media coach too. So you can find him at georgetalks.com, and you can also find him at LinkedIn, George Talks. And then we had Jane Emma, who is trying to make us all healthier by cleaning up our water. She has home water filtration systems. She has the Goodfor company, and you can find her online at www.thegoodforco.com.
And I'm gonna go to her website just as soon as we're done taping this program, because I am so freaked out by all the bad things that water can do to you. So I want to make sure I have good water.
Okay, you do that. And then,
But it'll only be for me, not for you.
Okay. Then we had Gogie Padilla with AnswerSure, and her website is answersure.com. And this is a very cool app. It intercepts scam calls to whomever you want it to intercept those for. And the phone doesn't even ring with these people who are trying to scam people out of their money. I think this is such a great product.
Oh, by the way, did you know that Lindsay sent me a text just now saying that she wants us to sign up for this service?
That's our daughter, Lindsay. Very funny.
Not
I
that we're
downloaded
revealing
the
our
app
age.
while we were talking. So, to be honest with you.
If you get one of these emails asking you to upload this, you know what your children think of you, right?
They just want to protect you. That's all.
For sure. Anyway, we need to sign off for this week, but we will return to this station next week with another episode of Passage to Profit. And before we go, I'd like to thank the
You
Passage to
can
Profit
answer.
team, Noah Fleischman, our producer, and Alicia Morrissey, our program director, and Mark Wilson, our syndication manager. And our podcast can be found tomorrow anywhere you find your podcast. Just look for the Passage to Profit show. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, although who knows what's going to happen to Twitter next. And remember, while the information provided during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without checking with your legal professional first. That's it for now, and we'll see you next week on Passage to Profit.